Yesterday, the Grizzlies made a huge comeback against the Minnesota Timberwolves and won the series in 6, which puts a conclusion on the first round of the NBA playoffs. And yes, even though there were no 7-game series, the first round was still an absolute banger, and it was an enjoyable time. And I hope that the second round has some very interesting matchups because on paper, these matchups look great. There are 8 championship aspirations, 8 teams with championship aspirations, and they are going down to the wire in these conference semifinals. And today, I'm going to be making predictions for each of the matchups, as well as giving some analysis on these matchups. But before we start, it turns out in the last month, about 90% of you guys watching aren't even subscribed to the channel, and that is way more than it needs to be. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below, and let's get into the predictions. So we are first going to talk about the 1 seed and the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers. But before we talk about the series, we had some very unfortunate news that came down from Shams yesterday, and Joel Embiid fractured like a bone in his face, like an orbital fracture, and some mild concussion, and he will be out for presumably this entire series. That is a huge blow for the Philadelphia 76ers, missing their leader, their scoring champion, and one of the most dominant players in the league who really helped them get to this point. So it's going to be a really tough for the 76ers and extra hard to beat this 1 seeded Miami Heat team. And for the Miami Heat, they played a great series in the first round. Their defense was stellar on Trae Young. Jimmy Butler had a great series when he was playing. Bam Adebayo stepped up in that last game. They had some moments from Tyler Hero. Their bench production was great between guys like Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. They had PJ Tucker, who did a lockdown job on Trae Young, made nothing easy for him, and he played amazing. And they are looking pretty good right now. I got to admit, the Miami Heat are looking really, really solid, but we can't also take away the 76ers, even though despite we're down up 3-0, and they almost blew it. They ended up winning it in 6. Joel Embiid's injury, I don't know. Doc Rivers was kind of stupid. They were up 30 on the Raptors in Game 6, and they didn't take the starters out. He did not take Joel Embiid out, which caused him to get elbowed in the face, I think. I'm pretty sure. I couldn't really see, but that's just a huge blow. But James Harden, he didn't have a great series, so he'll definitely need to step up. That is the main thing for them. Tyrese Maxey, he started off the series really well. He played okay. Game 6, he was great, but he played all right from games 4 and 5. But he didn't play great in the games that they lost. But the first game, if you remember, he had a career-high 38 points and was extremely aggressive. Tobias Harris played pretty solid, but now he'll have to take an even bigger step now that Joel Embiid is gone. He played more like a role ever since James Harden got there, but now you are missing your best player. Tobias Harris needs to step up and play somewhat to his money's, somewhat to the amount of money that he was given, which is he's one of the highest paid players in the league. And I know he's probably not going to live up to that because I don't know what Harris can do was worth that in the first place, but he'll need to step up, become somewhat like that all-star player, that all-star caliber player that he has been in the past. They'll need the shooting to beat the Miami Heat. The shooters really need to step up. George Niang, Furkan Korkmaz, Tyrese Maxey has to take more shots because he was one of the better three-point shooters percentage-wise this entire season. And the most important thing, James Harden. James Harden has to turn back the clock 4 years, and he has to go to work. It's not going to be easy, guarded by Jimmy Butler, guarded by PJ Tucker, but James Harden, he was cooking everyone when he won MVP, and he has lost a step. I think that is clear. He is aging, and his offensive bag is just not as deep. He isn't a guy that'll just break you down. He isn't as athletic. He was aggressive at the start of Game 6 against the Raptors, but he needs to continuously do that for an entire series for them to even have a chance. But the Miami Heat looks really good right now. Their defense is probably going to lock James Harden up, and I don't trust the other guys on the 76ers. And the Miami Heat have a lot of depth They're extremely good defensively. Jimmy Butler has played great this playoffs. Bam Adebayo can go to work now that there's no Joel Embiid. Tyler Hero, he just gives you an extra dynamic. He's probably the 6th man of the year. And Kyle Lowry running the show there. I'm giving the Miami Heat this series in 5 games. It might have been 6 or 7. I was still going to pick the Miami Heat either ways, but maybe 6 or 7 if Embiid wasn't there. It might even be a sweep. I could see the Heat just generally sweeping the 76ers, but I'm going to give the 76ers 1 game. I do think James Harden is going to have that outburst. If James Harden does not have that game, it'll be kind of disappointing, and I think it will be more and more apparent as we go on the series. James Harden is just not that guy anymore. He can be. He'll have his games. He just isn't that guy. He isn't as good of a shooter. He isn't as aggressive. He doesn't give it all on the defensive end. And, you know, him as your number 1 option is just not going to give you something. With Embiid, you had the leverage. You had Embiid just dominating and him really improving as a playmaker, getting open shots for his teammates. But now, with Embiid out, you just miss so much. The 76ers really don't have a chance. I got the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Final. The second series in the Eastern Conference is probably the best series in the first round. It's between my Boston Celtics, I'm the Boston Celtics fan, versus the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. And just by the image, this really is going to define this entire series. The physicality. If you thought that Nets and the Celtics series was physical, this is going to be even more physical. But another blow for the Bucks side, Chris Middleton out for this series, which I think he might come back 6 or 7. I heard that on somewhere. I'm pretty sure. Chris Middleton, it isn't exactly confirmed that he's going to be out for the entire series, but he's going to be out for the first 4 games, which is a blow because Chris Middleton provides that offensive spark. He's been an all-star. But the Bucks, I do believe, still have a chance. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is the best player in the world, and he showed his ass off in the first round. Drew Holiday is one of the best on-ball defenders, and their shooting was just incredible, and it has been incredible. Grayson Allen, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Wesley Matthews, Drew Holiday can hit some shots. Pat Connaughton, they just have so many great shooters, and even Giannis has improved his jump shot. But speaking of a team that just showed who they really are, that is the Boston Celtics. Yes, I know a lot of people are blaming the Brooklyn Nets and how they were extremely disappointed. They're turned on KD, they've turned on Kyrie, they've turned on Steve Nash. But the main credit goes to the Boston Celtics defense. The Boston Celtics defense was the number 1 defense in the league. Let me just get that straight. They were the number 1 defense in the entire league, and people still didn't realize how good of a defensive team they were. So they locked up Kevin Durant, and they locked up the entire team. Jason Tatum is on that level. He is that superstar. Jason Tatum is a guy that can give you 30 points a night and lock up your best player. Marcus Smart's the Defensive Player of the Year. The Celtics, they're all 8 guys contributed every single minute. They didn't have a single starter on the floor that did not play good. Now for the Bucks, it's going to be a little harder, especially on the defensive end, because locking up KD and locking up Giannis, who is a beast, is going to be extremely hard, and you'll have to watch the shooters. You can double or triple Giannis. I mean, you probably should. And the Celtics have great switches and great rotations, but the open shooters, Grayson Allen, he was torching the Bulls. You cannot let that happen. Grayson Allen, legitimately, if you give him 7 open threes and he's hitting, that might lose you a game. You cannot afford to do that. So they'll have to put bodies on him. Al Horford, Daniel Tice, Grant Williams, even though that's not going to work out so well. I'll just tell you that much. Grant Williams is 6'5", 6'6". Giannis is going to blow right past him. And Robert Williams. Robert Williams is a top 5, top 10 defender in this league. But he is mainly of a verticality shot blocker. He can lock up interior, and he's even a pretty solid perimeter switcher. But staying in front of Giannis, that is his job. Staying in front of Drew Holiday, that is a guy like Marcus Smart's job. And watching the shooters, that is everyone else. Now for this series, my pick, I am picking my bias and my gut. I feel like this is going 7 games. And I got the Boston Celtics winning this series in 7. This team just keeps surprising me as a Celtics fan. They just keep surprising me. They just keep playing so well. And so are the Bucks, by the way. And I wouldn't be surprised. This series is going to go either way. I am going Boston in that 7th game, the first game 7 of the 2022 NBA playoff. We are moving on to the Western Conference for the 1 seed and the 4 seed, the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. Both teams got out of there in 6th. The Suns had a really tough time with the Pelicans. The Pelicans really gave them a run for their money. And same thing with the Mavericks, but the Mavericks ended up taking care of business of the Utah Jazz. I'm actually pretty excited for this series. You got 2 of the best scorers in the league head to head. Both of them did deal with some injuries. Devin Booker just came back from a hamstring injury. It'll be interesting to see how he comes back. He didn't have his most aggressive game, but with the time off and with the rest, I think he'll be back to normal in no time. And Luka Doncic, he is basically already fully healthy. Literally, the 3 games that he did play in that series, he was phenomenal. So that's going to be interesting. But I'm more intrigued about the others for each team. Mikal Bridges, probably the most important player on the Suns right now, because Mikal Bridges, is he really like that defensively? Let me just tell you, he is really like that defensively. But he's guarding arguably the best scorer, or top 3 or top 5 scorer in the league, in Luka Doncic. So you got him, and then you got Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie. That's going to be extremely important. They showed up against the Jazz. When Luka was out, they showed up and they carried the offensive load. But it's going to be different for this Phoenix Suns team because they're really good defensively, and they're just not going to allow that to happen. But they're also going to be pressuring Luka. So both of those guys have to take the pressure off of Luka. And they have shown that they do that. But against a great team like the Phoenix Suns, who were the best team in the league, we'll have to see if they can do that at a high level. DeAndre Ayton has also got to be the man down low. He's got to be aggressive. The guys that are going to go up against are like Dwight Powell. He needs to take a ton of advantage on that. This is going to be a big series for DeAndre Ayton to see if he's really that first overall pick caliber type of guy, if he's really one of the better centers in the league. And for the Mavericks, they just have every single person has to play well because they are the underdogs in these series. And the Suns, they've been doing this for the entire season. They've been dominating teams, and they've been beating some of the best teams. They are 15-0 when leading after 3 quarters. That thing still stands. I got the Phoenix Suns winning this series, but I got to go into 6 games. I do believe Luka by himself is going to take one. I have Luka dropping like a 40 or 50 piece, and the Suns not being able to match that. I don't care if he's got about Mikal Bridges. It's freaking Luka Doncic. He is going to drop at least a 40, at least a 50. He's going to do that this series, and it's just people are going to realize, or people already realize, but they're going to be all over Luka after that series. And then I do believe that the Mavs can pull another one out against the Suns, but at the end of the day, the Suns, in my opinion, are just a tad bit better than the Dallas Mavericks on both sides of the ball, and I got the Phoenix Suns advancing to the conference finals for the 2nd straight year. The final series in the 2nd round, Warriors versus Grizzlies, a rematch of the play-in game last year where the Memphis Grizzlies shocked the world and beat the Warriors. Is it going to be much of a shocker if the Grizzlies beat the Warriors this time? In my opinion, I think it'll still be a really big shocker. The Grizzlies were the higher seed, but the Warriors just showed up. They looked so deadly. Steph Curry, coming off the bench, was dropping 30. Jordan Poole looked like an all-star superstar. Klay Thompson, he is back. And Draymond Green locked up. Not really locked up, but he did a good job against a guy that had a half a foot on him. He is going to be great defensively. Andrew Wiggins, in my opinion, is the X factor. He hasn't gotten much, like a ton of recognition, or hasn't been, but he's been so in this series. He wasn't an all-star starter. He never has been all-star starter level, but he just hasn't really played like that great. But the Warriors, overall, as a team, they played great, and so did the Memphis Grizzlies. I gotta give them credit. They came back from a ton of leads, especially yesterday, but that is the point. They came back on a ton of leads to the Timberwolves. Yes, that is a positive, but that is also a negative. They shouldn't have to get to deficits. 3 games that they won, they were trailing. I don't know if the Warriors are going to allow them to come back. A team with Steph, a team with Klay, a team with Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins. That team is not letting the Grizzlies come back down 20 plus. It's just not going to happen. The Memphis Grizzlies are a great team. Ja Morant has really shown who he is this season. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great player. Dillon Brooks has done a pretty solid job on Steph Curry in the past, but the Warriors are just too much for the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis Grizzlies, no matter what, this is a huge success of a season. Even for the Dallas Mavericks, a huge success. Luka's first round win. The Philadelphia 76ers, they just got unlucky. And for the Bucks and the Celtics, that's a little like if the Celtics lose to the Bucks, in my opinion, that's the success of the season. If the Bucks lose to the Celtics, well, the Bucks would obviously want more than that. But for this one, this is a huge success of the season for the Memphis Grizzlies to get into the second round to play the Warriors. And this is a huge stepping stone for them. It literally could have been the Warriors versus the Timberwolves, but it was the Grizzlies. And this just shows how good of a team they actually are. So yeah, I got the Warriors in 5. The Warriors are just too much for the Grizzlies. I do see them sneaking one game. I just think I could see it in 4, but I'm going 5. And yeah, those are my predictions. Let me know your predictions down in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.